Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. It's a real thrill to play here. I've been in and out of the Library of Congress and the American Folklife Center since the day I started my dissertation research on Arab American music and community. And the first time I listened to one of these scratchy old 78s was over in the Madison Building. And you'll hear that live, some of those very recordings in a moment. What you just heard was Gilman 77, the Egyptian March. What is that? Benjamin Gilman made, several hundred recordings at the Columbian Exposition, the Chicago World's Fair, in 1893. So that was one of 9 wax cylinder recordings that he made at the Turkish Pavilion, the Egyptian March, and we accessed this through the Archives of Folk Culture through the Library of Congress, who dropped electronic files in our box and let us listen to them. Interestingly, the woman pictured is playing this instrument, the qanun, and it was also the singer in the group. So we're gonna take you down an exciting road of the musical past, and there are all kinds of discoveries along this road. So it's a bit of a treasure hunt, if you will. And Annalise, the QR code is for what?
This is your first treasure. We just thought it would be interesting to see who's here and what brought you all here. So we just created a very quick Google form that we are asking you to include your email address and how you found out about this concert. This is an opt-in. We can't promise we'll send lots of communications because we don't have a communication system or actually any other gigs scheduled yet. But in case we do and we're back in this area, we would love to be back in touch with you. So if you could take a second and do that, we'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Next slide, please, John.
Wait, just make sure everybody's done.
Okay. And
this is the only place this QR code appears. So.
No, we have it on the last slide.
Oh, okay. It's on the last slide as well. We can go on.
The genesis of this project began when I was invited to a conference for the Ethnological Museum, the Humboldt Institute in Berlin. And they actually assigned me a topic, from documentation to something or other and something. And I thought, well, what do I have to say about that? I don't have much to say about that. And then I thought about my collection of Arab American music, interviews, mixtapes people had given me in the 1980s and the 1990s. There are some of them right there. And just kind of thought about, what I could do with this. Gave a paper for the conference. And John, next slide. And I was very much inspired by the idea of the Archive Challenge from the Library of Congress. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, started with John Lomax's 100th birthday, asking contemporary performers to go into that archive of field recordings and pick something and make it live again, or bring something to light that performers had already been doing, and then in this magical way that only happens here at the Archive of Folk Culture, you'll click on the live performance and it takes you to the original recording, and then you click again and you're looking at the collector's original field notes. It's absolutely magical. So I thought, maybe there's an archive challenge to be done here. At the same time, I found out that contemporary musicians like mixers and dubbers and hip hop people were sampling a CD that I had made on the Rounder label of old 78 records. And I thought, people are diving into this music. How do we make it more accessible? Next slide, please. At the same time, I was made aware of the Music Modernization Act, which means that in 1923, everything before 1923, the copyright was lifted, and this enabled libraries to make digitally available to their publics all of these recordings that had been, housed in the library. So I thought, that's cool. The person who gave that paper at the German conference was Peter Lawrence at Harvard University, and I knew they had a great a collection of Arab music. So I pitched this to Jared at a conference where you American Folklife Center people, were at that conference in Lisbon, giving a presentation on the Archive Challenge, and I said, Jared, how about we do this Archive Challenge? Let's dig out some dead repertoire, let's make it live again, and let's teach it to our Middle Eastern music ensembles. So Jared was game. As we worked on this material, we realized we needed somebody to be testing this out. Annalise I was on sabbatical, so I wasn't with my ensemble, but Annalise was with hers. So she was sort of the guinea pig, working through this material with her students. And then we realized we really needed a great singer. So we called Albert in, and Albert is an Arab-American musician, originally from Damascus, but, Aleppo. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, Aleppo, and grew up in the Boston area, and we've known each other for years and years. And he teaches over in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates, so he just flew in on Monday. So that's how it all came together. Next, please, John. So there's Annalise's group, and next, please. Okay, so here's our set list. One of the things we learned is that early recording, when you went to buy your records and your record player, you could buy other newfangled equipment like sewing machines, as you see up there on the left-hand corner of that record album, and centered below is a motorcycle. So it's interesting to think about where recording technology was situated in people's lives and in the political economy of the very, very early 20th century. Next, please, John. Our first tune is on the Malouf label. Alexander Malouf was an Arab-American, Assyrian-American entrepreneur, and this Yanana Hilwa is with the singer Salim Doumani, and the Takht led by the amazing violinist Naim Karakand. You're going to learn a little bit, like we said, it's a treasure hunt. So you'll hear a quick dulab, which is an opening piece, and then the song, and then at the end of the piece, at the end of our performance, we're going to add a vocal taqsim and an instrumental taqasim, improvisation. Now, anybody playing Arab music today knows that the improvisations usually come at the beginning of a set of music or in the middle. But you don't play out all your music and then say, Laith, take a solo, right? That is just unidiomatic today. And I proposed, 30 years ago in my dissertation that it was because the record was still running out. And some engineer was in the room saying, they're done with the song and they're saying, we need more. And so we're reviving that performance practice. Yanana Hilwa.
With other performance practices, we're reviving as well.
Yes. So you may note these.
يا نينا حلوة ومنين أجيبها يا نينا حلوة ومنين أجيبها طارت يا نينا على بيت صاحبها طارت يا نينا على بيت صاحبها كنا وامبارح على بحر المالح كنا ومبارح على بحر المالح شعرها سابح على وجه المية شعرها سابح على وجه المية يا نينا حلوة ومنينا يا نينا حلوة ومنينا غيبها طارت يا نينا على بيت صاحبها طارت يا نينا على بيت صاحبها مرت قبالي شغلت لي بالي مرت قبالي شغلت لي بالي ليتها حلالي قصدي اتجوزها ليتها حلالي قصدي اتجوزها مرت قبالي شغلت لي بالي مرت قبالي شغلت لي بالي ليتها حلالي قصدي اتجوزها ليتها حلالي قصدي اتجوزها يا نينا حلوة ومنين اجيبها يا نينا حلوة ومنين اجيبها يا نينا على بيت صاحبها طارت يا نينا على بيت صاحبها أخدنا البلبل وطر وياها أخدها البلبل وطر وياها قصده يميمة يسمع مغناها قصده يميمة يسمع مغناها يا نينا حلوة ومنين اجيبها طارت يا نينا على بيت صاحبها طارت يا نينا على بيت صاحبها يا ليلي يا عيني يا ليلي يا ليل
يا ليل
يا ليلي يا ليلي يا ليلي يا ليلي يا ليل يا ليل يا ليل
ايوه يا سلام. Thank you. Thank you very much. So you may have noticed some concerned looks going on stage. We think he kept messing up. We wanted to go on to the B part of the phrase, and he kept doing that descending thing. The oud player does the descending thing every single time in the record. But these are one-take recordings, right? This is the acoustic age, and so there's no possibility of doing, little possibility of doing second and third takes so that you can get the oud player on board. So Annalise and I were imagining what was happening in that room and giving Jared the stink eye. So we're going to move on to a beautiful piece called Juz al-Hammam. Thank you, John. Sorry. Actually, let's go ahead and move on. The next slide, please. Yeah. So Juz al-Hammam is we could say so many things about it. And, I in addition to the four of us and in addition to being inspired by our colleagues here at the American Folklife Center and the Library of Congress, and also Peter Lawrence up at Harvard, we know so much more about these recordings, particularly due to two people, one who might have just walked in the room, but one of them is Richard Breaux, professor in Wisconsin, who has done an enormous, as an historian, biographical work, digging up details on all of these Arab American musicians who he was introduced to by buying a stack of old records. And also just certain archives of old 78 records. And also we want to give a shout out to Ian Nagoski, who has done amazing work collecting and reissuing records and really helped us piece together details. On recordings like this one by Zakia Akub, we believe she is the first woman to record in the United States, in New York. And we learned that hers was a vanity recording on the Columbia label. So what does that mean? It's a recording she wanted to make. Why was Naim Karakan's Taht, why was his ensemble in the studio? Did he hang a sign out and say, okay, anybody who wants to make a recording, come today? Did she also perform in public? I think certainly she performed at community events. And in terms of the words, they're hard to hear. They're really difficult. And we asked our colleague in Paris, Habib Yamin, and maybe, Albert, you can tell us a little bit about the words of Juz al-Hammam.
Yeah, so Juz al-Hammam is this form, taqtuqa, which is a short, popular song form from the early 20th century, a lot of time has these sexual connotations to them. So Juz al-Hammam means a pair of doves, and basically the song is about a pair of doves as a metaphor for breasts. And it means that this girl is in full sexual maturity. The text speaks in a frank manner about the girl's desire to sell her charms. Who wants to buy my doves? The different verses are variations of the same idea, selling good qualities. Yeah, and I found that out later after. I was like, oh, that's what that meant. Okay. So we picked up two verses from this in the recording. We couldn't make out a lot of the other verses in it, but that's generally the theme of this genre. This particular song.
Yeah, great. The recording was popular enough that it was reissued several years later. So that's interesting on this other label. And the singer Munira Mahdia in Cairo had recorded it just a few years earlier, and she was a famous singer and cabaret owner. So it's just interesting to see the way these pieces circulate about.
جوز الحمام مين يشتري مني يشتري يا حمام يا حمام مني وعيونك ياللي الكحل غاب منهم وعيونك ياللي الكحل غاب منهم وخدودك ياللي الورد حارسهم وخدودك ياللي الورد حارسهم الكحل غاب منهم وخدودك ياللي الكحل غاب منهم وخدودك ياللي الورد حارسهم وخدودك ياللي الورد حارسهم يا لا لا يا ليل يا لا لا يا ليل من دودك يا حمام مني جوز الحمام من يشتري مني يشتري يا حمام يا حمام مني وعيونك ياللي الكحل غاب منهم وعيونك ياللي الكحل غاب منهم وخدودك ياللي الورد حارسهم وخدودك ياللي الورد حارسهم وعيونك ياللي الكحل غاب منهم وعيونك ياللي الكحل 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 غاب منهم وخدودك ياللي الورد حارسهم وخدودك يالي الورد حارسهم يا لا لا يا ليل يا لا لا يا ليل روح يا حمام يا حمام يا حمام يا حمام مني جوز الحمام يشتري مني يشتري يا حمام يا حمام مني مين يشتري مني يشتري يا حمام يا حمام مني يا ليلي 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 الله الله ايوه 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 استاذه
So, two musical treasures so far, right? The improvisations at the end of the recording, and we performed a skip, and you got the joke. So this is a great audience.
We chose Ya Ghazelen mainly because it was one of the clearest recordings of the set. We could make out most of the words pretty well, the lyrics, and they followed standard poetry, and we could also make out a lot of the melodic lines. So Ya Ghazelen, an early recording 1905 in Cairo by Favorite Records being a company that's, there's not a lot of information out there about it. The label here and the numbers that we have on the screen sort of say where it was placed in the catalog of Favorite Records that was based in Hanover, Germany at the time, but we're doing a lot of recordings in Ottoman area, which was the geography at the time. So Egypt was included in the Ottoman catalog. Ahmed Al-Agami is the singer, the vocalist for this. If you can go to the next slide, we do have violin and qanun, and again, thanks to Peter Lawrence at Harvard Library, we were able to see where this record actually fit into a larger catalog of what Favorite Records was doing at the time, and it was a wonderful catalog to look through because they had a lot of photographs of the performers that were featured, except for Ahmed Al-Agami. So that was a sad thing for us. But we love this piece of music. It is a tawshih. It's a Sufi vocal song, more of a genre in the late 1800s, early 1900s, but mostly synonymous today with muwashah, a larger category of song tradition. That is distinct because of how the poetry is written. An innovation in Al-Andalus, or Muslim Spain, or Moorish Spain, in the Mediterranean for about 800 years. And you may not think poetry could be that innovative and trending and exciting and world-shaking, but it was. It was in Al-Andalus, and the muwashah, when it was innovated there in Al-Andalus, it soon spread across the Mediterranean into the troubadour areas of European music. And in a couple of centuries, people were writing these kinds of poems, not only in Arabic and early Romance languages, but also Hebrew, of course, that was there in Al-Andalus at the time, and in languages associated with Persian peoples. So in a couple of centuries, it had really spread far and wide. So this is Ya Ghazelen. I think I'll say one thing before we play, and that is we were working with Amal Gwarmazi, a Tunisian musicologist, and she directs another ensemble called Mazika in Paris. She was a part of this project at an earlier phase. She helped us with this record. None of us knew this song when we first heard it, but then when Amal heard it, she said, oh yeah, this is the one we sing. We still sing in Tunisia, and we pass this down in our music schools. So it was really interesting for us to see that these muwashah, circulate in some places but not in others. So by way of our researching this, we wanted to put this back into circulation, actually in North American ensembles, for those who don't know it. It is performed in Tunisia in a different musical mode today than is in the recording. So for music nerds like us, that was sort of an interesting thing, because contrafactum is not a new thing. Text and melodies flip-flop all the time. But then to change a well-known song to a new musical mode is sort of a larger shift. So it was interesting to find a record from 1905 that was in a slightly different musical mode than how it's transmitted today in Tunisia. O beautiful gazelle, adorned with seductive eyes, I have passion in my heart for those eyes. If you visit me or leave my sight, a star has appeared and then vanished. And in true performance style, we're going to start this record the way, or this recording the way the record, or this performance, boy, my worlds are colliding. This performance with the record. So without further ado, استوانات فيفوريت المطرب البير الأغا.
يا ليلي يا عيني ليلي يا ليلي يا ليلي يا ليل.
ايوه استاذ جاد، ايوه ايوه.
So Aruba Kulu Lubnan. This was our most challenging record that we got, but we really appreciated the vocalist behind this and the project here, so we went with it. A 1928 recording by vocalist Habiba Msika. And Arubi is a vocal improvisation from North Africa, particularly Algeria, and really the record is mostly unintelligible. So, Amal Gormazi, again, a Tunisian music scholar, was working with us, and she and Ghassan Azayez and Christopher Silver, who was working with us, managed to get the refrain out of this. So that's what we're going to perform, is the refrain. It's a very short refrain, but it's fronted by an improvisation in the mode of Rastadil. It's a Tunisian mode. And we can hear percussion in this recording, so that's a very rare thing to get drums in early recordings like this, because it skipped the needle and was difficult to integrate into the sound. So we get a very clear rhythm here, the rhythm ghaita, and so we're going to be performing that as well. But the feature is Habiba Msika, so a short word about Habiba Msika on the next slide. Habiba Msika really became quite well known in the 1920s. In the last 6 or 7 years of her life, she recorded 100 records, over 100 records that became very, very famous. She was synonymous with another superstar, rising superstar in the region, Kulthum. You may have heard of her. Habiba Msika, at the height of her popularity, was tragically murdered in her home at 27 years old. And neighbors heard her yelling for help, and they took her to the hospital. And before she passed, she was able to tell them who did this to her, and they apprehended him. So this story of Maut Habiba Msika also became famous. She was famous in her life, and she was famous after her death. One of the probably the superstar divas, called the Queen of Tarab in North Africa between World War I and World War II, a Jewish Tunisian musician and stage performer. So this is not Kulu Lubnan. We're not singing about Lubnan. When we got the chorus, we realized it was Kulu Libnet in Tunisian dialect. Yeah, so it's come on, girls, don't blame me. Matlumu alayya. She burned my heart. Haragat qalbi wamshet al fantasy, and walked away in elegance, but we also think with smugness too. Yeah.
And just a quick note, this story became famous of her death because this was an actual record that was called The Death of Habiba Msika that got circulated and was a bestseller as well. So that's part of the Istewanat story as well.
Sounds like a wonderful topic for a film.
So we have accordion in this, and we're going to break out the accordion. ما تلوم عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية حيو حيو الابنات ما تلوم عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية حيو حيو الابنات ما تلوم عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية حيو حيو الابنات ما تلوم عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية هيو هيو الابنات ما تلوموا عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية هيو هيو الابنات ما تلوموا عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية هيو هيو الابنات ما تلوموا عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية هيو هيو الابنات ما تلوموا عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية حيو الابنات ما تلوموا عليا حرقت قلبي ومشت بالفانتسية
All right. We have a couple pieces, and we're going to do a bit of a mashup. So all of the qualities that you've heard, almost all of them, are going to happen in this mashup of two really very well-known pieces that are performed probably in every in every hafli and mahrajan in the community, but also in all of these university-based ensembles. One is El Bulbul Nagha, and the other one is Il Hilwadi. Il Bulbul Nagha, we know from the very magnificent recordings of Sabah Fakhri, the Syrian singer, who died just recently in the early 2021. 21, yeah. And then Il Hilwadi, we know it from Fairuz. And Jared will talk a little bit about those lyrics, but by the great Egyptian composer Said Darwish. Both of these, we have, so Il Bulbul Nagha, interestingly, is one of the first records that I heard here at the Library of Congress. And what do I want to say about Il Bulbul Nagha? So Naim Karakand, Shahadi Ashkar, and Abrahim Halabi, two of his sidemen, were Jewish musicians visiting from Aleppo. We don't know for how long or how many recordings they made. The singer...
That sounds like us.
Nice. The singer Konstantin Sus is certainly, with a name like Konstantin El Sus, is Christian, like the great majority of the Arab immigrants to this country. We thought this could have been the earliest recording of this piece, but unfortunately we found out from Akram Reyes, who is the keeper of an archive in Beirut, that he thinks there's one that's a couple of years earlier. But it is among the very earliest ones.
We'll find it.
And, I just think this really, so many things highlight how continuous these traditions are, right? And so the interest in ethnic music in America was really born right here at the library with a conference that involved Richard Spotswood and his incredible discography of ethnic records on disc, and the realization, that American music wasn't just, black and white, but it was Lithuanian, and it was Polish, and it was Lebanese, and it was all these communities recording, and just seeing how closely these pieces are being recorded there and here, and how much this repertoire is circulating. Not to mention this incredible violinist Naim Karakand, who we feel is sort of, on equal footing with Sami Ashawa, who we often recognize as a major, instrumental pioneer, maverick, and wonderful musician in the world of Cairo and beyond, in the quote unquote old country. This piece features as much heterophonic mayhem and tempic elasticity as is possible. So if it sounds like a mess, that's what it's supposed to sound like. We've got it. And one of the challenges with doing these two tunes is that we really had to unlearn the wonderful versions that we all know and love, and that our students know and love. I mean, you really had to discipline your students to say, like, no, you can't do it that way, even though it's in your ear. So, Jared, tell us a little bit about El Hilwadi, because this is our sort of, we have a tiny little small encore for you, an outro, but this is our final suite of two pieces. So tell us a little bit about your interest in doing this old war horse, El Hilwadi. What made you interested in picking that up?
El Hilwadi. So many of us know this. This is a 1922 recording. It is also not the first one of this song. But what interested us was when we first listened to it. You can flip through the slides until we get there.
One more. Oh, yeah, there we go, that one, sure.
The disc is labeled, it's Malouf, and Salim Doumani is singing, so we started with him, Yanan Hilwa. This is Salim Doumani again. It's labeled Adik Yaseyeh Kuku Kuku, which perhaps is the part everybody remembers from El Hilwadi, the rooster saying Kuku Kuku. And it's quite comical, actually, the way they recorded this. You might hear us doing some of that now. But El Hilwadi is the title that musicians tend to transmit this song today. There were a couple of other surprises. In short, verses 2 and verses 3 were new to this. The refrain in verse 1 was the one that we all know and we all perform. Verse 2 and 3 on the B side were different. And talked about how America's children love to work, and they are flush with cash and all of this sorts of things. And it gives us a little social commentary, actually, on what immigrant life was like in New York City in the early 1920s for Arab peoples that were coming through this well-known, beloved song composed by Saeed Darwish just a year or two probably before this record came out. But still circulating now transatlantic on this side, and then set to a new place, a new context. So we hope you like El Hilwadi according to this record's version.
But we're starting with El Bulbulnar. And I don't think we have the lyrics of that up there, right, John? Okay.
البلبل ناغى غصن الفل يا شيء النعماني يا شيء النعماني قصدي ألاقي محبوبي بين الياسمين والريحاني يا عيني بين الياسمين والريحاني شحد على باب الدار، قالت له الحلو على الله، قالت له الحلو على الله. قال انا مالي شحاد، اعطيني بوسه دخيل الله، يا عيني اعطيني بوسه دخيل الله. نغى غصن الفل يا شقيق النعماني، يا شقيق النعماني. قصدي ألاقي محبوبي بين الياسمين والريحان، بين الياسمين والريحان. قلبي تلوع يا وعدي، بدي طبيب يداويني، بدي طبيب يداويني. دوا الطبيب ما ينفعني، شوفت حبيبي بتشفيني، يا عيني شوفت حبيبي بتشفيني. يا غصن يا شقيق النعماني، يا شقيق الحلوة دي قامت تعجن بالتضحية، ودك بيصيح كوكو كوكو بالفجرية. يلا بينا على باب الله، يا صنايعية يجعل صباحك صباح الخير يا اسطعطية. طلع النهاردة فتح يا عليم، في الجيب ما فيش شي ولا مليم. طلع النهاردة فتح يا عليم، في الجيب ما فيش شي ولا مليم. من في اليومين دول شاف طلاطين زي الصنائعية المساكين. أولاد أمريكا ما يناموش، عن الصنايع ما يولوش. أولاد أمريكا ما يناموش، عن الصنايع ما يولوش. يكونوا دايما مليان قروش، يكونوا دايما مليان قروش، من الفلوس ما يملوش، من الفلوس ما يملوش. الحلوة دي قامت تعجن بصبحية، ودك تزيح بالفجرية. يلا يلا بنا على باب الله، يا صنايعية يجعل صباحك صباح الخير يا صناعية.
Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you for this wonderful invitation to share our work with you. This is certainly a work in progress. We were kind of staying before 1923, but now we're going to bust out and check out all these other collections. We're trying to figure out how to make this music available, whether it's on a website or just circulating it, or try to do a publication so that we can get more people playing it. But we're going to leave you with our 1-minute outro. Your favorite Gilman 77, the Egyptian March. For those of you who are late, this is our oldest recording, a wax cylinder recording made by Benjamin Gilman at the Chicago Columbian Exposition in 1893. We have no idea why Gilman made like 88 recordings of gamelan and only 9 at the Turkish Pavilion, but this one was a good one for us. So. And John, could you go to this thing? That's the special thanks slide. That's the one.
Istuana. Istuana live? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.